like growing up, my father, he was a political figure, but he was also a philanthropist. And he used to take us to the villages in Pakistan and, all the work that he had been doing for the people. And there were like so many families that were just dependent on him and his support. And my father did not have any other activity other than just like helping people. This was literally what he did. I feel like growing up in that environment, you start to feel like this is your purpose, and that's what you're meant to do. So I keep going back there, like no matter what I start or do, like I keep going back to that base.
Welcome to Creators with Influence, a podcast by the American Influencer Council on the intersection between the creator economy and digital culture. For the month of April, AIC's Summer Albarcha takes over as host of Creators with Influence podcast to spotlight the immensely talented and multidimensional American Muslim creator community. Presenting This Is Ramadan, our collective voices and stories. Summer Albarcha is a globally recognized fashion expert and is considered one of the pioneers of the digital modest fashion movement.
Hi, I'm Summer Albarcha, a creator, founder of Summer Evenings, which is a modest evening gown collection, and I am chair of the American Influencer Council's Learning and Development Committee. I am so excited to be taking over the Creators with Influence podcast. Until May 2nd, more than 2 billion Muslims across the globe are celebrating Ramadan. It is a time for reflection, personal development, service to others, and uplifting family traditions from dawn to sunset. For those of you celebrating, Ramadan Mubarak. And for those of you interested in the culture, it's a great time to learn about different celebrations, philosophies, and traditions to build more inclusive connections. For a second year, the American Influencer Council presents This Is Ramadan, a cultural education initiative. My guest is Dr. Hina Cheema of Story of Style. She is a Dallas-based obstetrician gynecologist who is passionate about social justice advocacy. On this episode of Creators with Influence, we're going to discuss advancing women's rights through healthcare. Welcome, Dr. Hina, and thank you so much for joining me. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you so much, Summer. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Hina Cheema, an OBGYN living in Dallas with my husband and my 2 children. I'm passionate about medical humanitarian work and social media advocacy. I currently exclusively work at a nonprofit gynecology clinic that I helped create 2 years ago. Thank you so much for having me.
That's amazing. Well, a lot of people know your Instagram and TikTok handle Story of Style, but you were an OB-GYN and robotic surgeon in Michigan before you moved to Texas. What prompted you to stop practicing medicine, and how did you find the courage to come back to the medical field in 2021?
I had always been passionate about, medical humanitarian work, especially like wanted to go to like conflict zones to provide care. But obviously, like going through medical school, immigrating to US, and then, getting into the system, all of that was just so long, the residency, and then finally becoming an attending.
Yeah.
I only like got a chance like once to go to Dominican Republic, and that was after my residency. And it wasn't, a conflict zone, but again, it was, humanitarian work in the medical capacity. And I absolutely loved it. And I was, my belief was like strengthened that this is, what I want to do. And I had been working like slowly towards like financial freedom. And finally, when that happened for me, it was the perfect time. We were going to move to Texas. So we moved there, and, I quit working and I signed up with so many different like organizations. However, COVID-19 happened. Yeah. And because of the pandemic, all the plans, were canceled. I couldn't travel, internationally. So that was like up in the middle. So I went ahead and then opened a nonprofit, gynecology clinic here in my area, because I was like, that's, I just don't want to wait for the pandemic to be over to actually start doing the work that I want to do. So anyhow, well, that's where I work. And last year I went back in a regular job just so that I could like keep my skills, current, so that I can continue to provide the medical humanitarian work that I intend to do in the future, inshallah.
That's so amazing. It's so amazing to have people like you who have, this opportunity and also this skill set and, like love to help others. So really blessed, I'm sure your community is very blessed to have you. According to an article from the American Medical Association, medicine is a profession of service. The article is called Serve and Protect States. Medicine is about service. We are all here to serve others, our neighbors, our communities, and even complete strangers. This statement really resonated with me because of the work we do at the AIC is in service to the creator community. And in March, you were in Gaza. So what inspires you to serve and provide care on the front lines of humanitarian medical work?
This actually goes back into my childhood too. Like growing up, my father, he was a political figure, but he was also a philanthropist. And he used to take us to the villages in Pakistan and, all the work that he had been doing for the people. And there were like so many families that were just dependent on him and his support and training. There was just so much work happening, and our home, there were people all the time outside our home being helped. Like there was no like my father did not have any other activity other than just like helping people. This was literally what he did. I feel like growing up in that environment, you start to feel like this is your purpose, and that's what you're meant to do. So I keep going back there, like no matter what I start or do, like I keep going back to that base.
And I know even, in Islam, we have a saying that if you save one life, it's as if you've saved all of humanity. And I feel like this is something that resonates a lot across a lot of young Muslims who want to have a greater purpose in the career paths that they choose. Even, especially if you have enough privilege to have financial freedom, you can use your free time to be able to, have service to others, whether it even be through medical field or even through, the schools or other forms of service. I think that there's room for every career path to have service to others. And I just want to touch on, again, as Muslims, the Pew Research Center suggests Muslims are the world's fastest growing religious group. When it comes to educating healthcare providers on caring for Muslim women, what are your suggestions for providing culturally competent care?
That's an excellent question. And I feel like a lot of people are very clueless in how to go about caring for Muslim women, especially because Muslim women come in, like they have a whole range of beliefs. Like, they're majority of the Muslim women, and especially those who are hijab wearing, do not want a male OBGYN or a male nurse. And, that is something that we always have to advocate for and let people know. So I feel like knowing that if you see a woman in a hijab, try not to shake her hands because she may not shake your hand, and if she respects you, but that's a cultural thing. It's a religious thing, faith-based thing. And similarly, again, like not having the male figure and being mindful of that, and especially the hijabi women, there has to be this is what we started doing in our labor and delivery department. Like we would have a note posted outside the door that you have to knock 2 to 3 times and hear that the patient is ready to receive you, because she may have taken her hijab off and she's in labor, so she may want to be comfortable.
And of course, there's always that exclusivity when it comes to emergency situations. And obviously, any Muslim woman would have a male provider if needed. If it was the only hospital had a male provider, of course you'd rather see a male attending than not have a doctor at all. And this is really just in, I would say, comfortable situations where you have access to female providers.
Absolutely. That's a very important point, because in emergent situations, majority of the women actually are gonna just want to have care.
Of course. And even religious and cultural I guess traditions would always prioritize the woman's health and safety first. But of course, it's so nice to have that understanding. And I feel like this is become a lot more common too. Even when I find myself going to different OB/GYN checkups, they kind of recognize now that, oh, would you prefer to see a male provider or a female provider? And they'll tell me which days the female provider is available. And I just feel like it's definitely changed, especially since like growing up. I remember when my mom, for example, was pregnant with my siblings, I would always have to like make sure they put a note on the door or something like that for no male attendings to walk in. And then now I feel like there's just a lot more conversations and awareness. So I just talking again about the gender issues in healthcare. Gender inequality is a key factor to health inequity for women and those from marginalized communities. What is your vision for gender equality in health?
Here, in the US, there is marked like gender-based differences in not just gender-based, but also like race-based. So your women don't just, get lesser quality of care overall being females compared to males, but also it also depends on their race. So there are racial differences. There are nobody has looked at the religious differences, but people have looked at the race-based differences.
Yeah.
And there are like marked differences, and like our Hispanic and African American communities definitely need a lot more awareness, education, and healthcare providers educated more in this regard, that they look at the outcomes, because the outcomes are worse in these cases. And we need to do more research. We need to find out what are the things that we can do differently and improve healthcare for these women.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I do also see it being more of a race, racial difference compared to gender difference, just because like if I would, having a white woman versus having a Hispanic man, they might get different treatment.
Yes.
Even though they might be different genders.
Yes.
And so touching back on your role as a content creator and medical professional, I would love to get your point of view on creator burnout and ways to protect your mental health on social media.
So I would really say that means limiting your social media use. That would be the right thing to say. And where the children are concerned, American Academy of Pediatricians, they recommend no more than like 2 hours of screen time in a day. And that I'm forgetting the exact statistic. However, the teen suicide is up, and by significant percent. Like I'm forgetting the exact number, but teen suicides are up, teen depression rates are up, and overall we are seeing, because even in my OBGYN practice, I'm seeing more and more depression. And me as an OBGYN, I'm treating anxiety and depression, I feel like, all the time.
Oh, man.
Because that has increased, and a lot of that has to be, it is related to social media and the hyper connectivity. People are way too connected, and you are seeing perfection, and you're seeing everything, how the algorithms are in Instagram and TikTok. A lot of the algorithms will promote, like, if somebody is, beautiful, or somebody has created something aesthetic, like perfection is liked more, obviously, because it's like something that they haven't seen before, and they're like, oh, it can be this good. But I feel like then overall your explore page, or the things that you're seeing in your newsfeed, are so perfect that you start to compare yourself with these people subconsciously, even as old as myself, and been in the world for this long. I feel like it affects myself as well, and I have to do some checks and balances. Know what works for you. Meditation helps, yoga, workout like cardio is excellent in creating new neuronal connections by 6 weeks. So it is excellent to be incorporating in your life like daily, and limiting the use and not following people who are, who you
Who make you feel
are
bad.
exactly.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I feel like even then, I've done this myself too. I've unfollowed, some accounts that didn't make me feel, I guess, inspired in the right way, maybe
Yes.
pushing my style in a different direction I didn't want, or pushing my content different direction. And, you can always check any profile you want, but to see them constantly on your newsfeed, is a choice you can make. And I also want to touch too on, the For You page, how accurate it's become. And even if you spend time looking at something, it reads that you spent XYZ amount of time looking at this, and it'll keep showing it to you on your page. And so sometimes when I see something, I'll put not interested so it can stop showing me similar videos. Like even
Yes.
something as silly as like a vacation, right? I'm like, I really want to go on vacation, but I'm not free right now, so please stop showing me this location.
I feel you. Yes.
Yeah. And I also feel like there is this trend moving away from posting often, kind of living in the moment. It's tricky because on one hand, there's so many platforms to create content on now, like reels and stories and posts. And, sometimes they say if you want to optimize your content, post like 4 reels a week and this many stories a week. And it's an insane amount. And then there's also this movement towards, I guess, being more present in real life and posting very limitedly, like the photo dumps you see where people just post like their camera roll for the week.
Yes.
Less perfection, maybe more comedy instead of perfectly posed content. So it's really a mix, but I still feel like it's constantly revolving. There is constantly new pressure to create and keep up with the new trends, and something that worked perhaps like 3-4 years ago you had as a great strategy is definitely not the
working.
strategy now. So content creators need to be more aware of, what kind of strategies they want to implement without burning themselves out too. Because again, like at the end of the day, you have a real life to live as well beyond your creator life. And I know this is like kind of a tangent, but being a creator, sometimes you feel like your whole life is creating content, but that's just not true. You just like a 9 to 5, you have a profession and you have a life outside of that. And so I think it's always important, as content creators, to remember that if this is your job, then treat it as your job. Take weekends off, take after 5 off. Try to, limit that time frame of how much you're spending on social media when you should be out with your family or doing fun things in the house and things like that.
Definitely. I mean, it has to be, if this is somebody's like full-time job and this is what you're doing, as a job, it's gonna burn you out if you're 24/7 on it.
Yeah.
So it has to be like, you have to at least take a day off. Like, if you don't want to take the whole weekend off, because I know I can't take that time. Like I'm on it whenever I want to, but I'm not posting as much as I used to post before. Again, because of the very same reason. There's this tide that people are moving more towards original content. Not faces without makeup. There are people who are, TikTok has done a great job in, bringing in that kind of content and blowing it up so that people will see that more, where people are just being themselves and are just normal people.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just think as the TikTok, method definitely changed the traditional Instagrammers method. So they're all trying to figure out how to fit in with this new wave of new types of content. And, we'll see how things go. So in February, you started wearing the hijab full time. And the hijab is often misrepresented and weaponized in media and politics. And I just wanted to ask, why is the hijab important to you? And do you feel the modest fashion movement has helped break faith-based stereotypes?
I actually, I'll tell you my story. Like I have worn hijab 3 times in my life before this time. And I would always suddenly I'm feeling very like religious. I'm feeling close to the religion. I've started reading more and I'm feeling, I want to do this. And then, as soon as the the closeness with the faith like veers off a little bit. We call it like the waning of your iman, as in your faith is waning. So, so the hijab would come off. So it was like directly related to my relationship with the faith, and also because every time that I started wearing it was, it was just like one day I was not wearing it, and the next day I was. So there was
Yeah.
no like slow, like,
Transition.
exactly, like the
Yeah.
transition was missing, and you need that because you have to change your entire wardrobe. So this
Oh,
is
yeah.
just like my personal, like the Muslim struggle of it. But then on top of this personal struggle, we have to deal with other people's judgment of you.
Yeah.
Like, you're not wearing a hijab one time and then you start wearing it. Now people are confused. But this is your life. Like, you are also, just figuring things out, and your faith continues to increase or decrease in whatever way that it is.
Yeah.
So I would love to tell people that hijab is a symbol of modesty and a choice that women, Muslim women make.
And I'd say it's even a symbol of being a Muslim in public, like
Yes.
Muslim women are so honored to represent their faith in public and have a constant reminder to be a good person when wearing it and just to represent their faith in a good way.
But yeah, when you said that weaponized, when I first came to US in 2005, that was the post 9/11 era, and at that time the Islamophobia, I came into the Western Islamophobia. Like, that's when I landed in the country, and the Islamophobia was just out of control. My sister used to wear a hijab. Like 2 years later, she'd moved here as well, and she was wearing an abaya, which is like a long dress, and a hijab. And somebody said to her, some really derogatory things, just like walking by, and said that, a slur word, and said, go back to your country. We don't want you here. And I just remembered that she was just so upset. And this is like, something that you do not expect, because the people hate you so much because of your faith, and because you're visibly Muslim. So that was a very difficult time, and I wasn't wearing a hijab at that time. And then there was a period where I started wearing the hijab, and that was during my residency. And during my residency interviews, it is a whole other story how I was treated. And that was back in 2009, and I was treated abhorrently, and I could feel it. And you know how you can feel the hate?
Yeah.
And I'm sure if anybody has experienced any kind of discrimination, they know what it feels like, because you can feel it. So there were like very inappropriate questions that were asked of me during the interviews. And people were like, are you sure? Like, we have 14 years old who get pregnant here, and are you sure that you'll be able to handle that and not judge them? And I was like, I am a physician. I am a doctor. I do not judge people on absolute. That's my entire thing.
The patient,
we do not judge people. We support and serve the community regardless of who they are, what color their hair is. Are they transgender? Are they not transgender? Like, all of those things, like what the color of their skin is. Like,
your job is to provide the best healthcare for whoever walks in that room.
Exactly. I do not care who they are, like, at all. Like, you just have to give them the best care that you can.
Did you eventually get that residency, or did you get a different one?
No, I did. I did not get that. And my last interview, that's a very interesting story. My last interview, I had like 9 interviews. And as an international medical graduate, let me tell you that this is one of the hardest parts of your life. This is a big transition. And if you don't get a residency, it's your whole year gone, and you may be trying for years and not get in. So at my last interview, I I considered in the morning, I decided, I was like, I'm not going to wear a hijab today. Like, this is my last interview. I am going to take it off and I'm going to see how people treat me differently because I know, because I've seen them treat me differently when I was not wearing a hijab. So, I was 100% sure that I wasn't wearing it. And then suddenly something clicked in me and I was like, you know what? You can't just, this is you. And this is what you want to do. Like I do not care what other people think and what happens. I'm doing this for my God, for myself, for my connection with God, and I will not let anything come between. That was a weak moment when I wanted to just like take it off for that reason. So I decided to wear the hijab on that day. And I walked in and my very first interview was with the associate program director. And she was so incredibly, like she was very well aware of what the hijab was. She has had a colleague before. She understood the discrimination and she actually brought that up and said that I understand how hard it is for you. And, in this mix, and she started talking to me about the friend that she made who was Muslim. So anyhow, awareness changes everything, right? So she was very well aware and we had so much fun throughout the interview. And I heard her go out to the program director and she was like, I need her in the program. I need this girl, which was
That's
crazy. So
That's
it's a happy ending too.
That's great to hear. And I really do feel that way too. I feel like when someone has a Muslim friend, their perspective changes entirely. Even in high school, I would find myself bringing a lot of my American friends that I made throughout the day over to my house after school. And I'd be like, hey, do you guys want to come over for dinner? Do you want to meet my family? And I really just wanted to do my best to show them that I was just like them. We'd hang out without my scarf in my room, just to show that I only wore it in public. And again, like this initiative to always show students in my class about my personal life and how I was really just like them, but I just wore hijab and wanted to adhere to my faith, inspired me actually to start my blog because I was kind of having my high school classmates as my audience initially. When I was 16 and wanting to show them that this is the ways I style it and this is the ways that I, make outfits together and just show my personality through my wardrobe. And so I just really felt that, again, like tying back to the question of the modest fashion movement, it really did help me break a lot of the stereotypes that my classmates had about me, especially in 2012. Moving forward, I feel like this is become very widespread, very well known, and there's always room, obviously, for more growth when it comes to more rural areas who don't have this like high-tech access like a lot of the bigger cities do. And I just also want to hear your opinion as well about how do you feel about the modest fashion movement?
Yeah, so I absolutely love it. It is actually one of the reasons why, because I absolutely love fashion. And that's why I went back to hijab as well, because I was feeling really close to religion. And then I was also like really wanting to put on this hijab so that I could be visibly Muslim. I really wanted that. And, I feel like like Lena, of With Love Lena, and there are like so many others who inspired me, and all you young girls, and you're like putting all these wonderful outfits together. And I'm like, fashion I can have both. I can do both. And I was very excited. So it took me like a couple years of noticing all that fashion and trying to come up with my own style. But I do think that has changed a lot of things, and especially now on TikTok as well, people are apart from the modest fashion movement, I think the next step is now people going on TikTok and actually teaching people. So there are people who are teaching others about Islam and what Islam is and the things that we believe in. And even though that it is not our responsibility to teach people, people are supposed to learn about this they can Google these things.
Yeah.
So people can, just like they can Google race-based stuff, other discriminatory, differences between different religions or cultures. You can Google that stuff. Like, we do not have the responsibility to teach other people, but we do want to be accepted, and we do want to be seen as an equal. But that is not our responsibility. And if we are doing that, it's like we are, just giving you this extra information that we don't have to give you.
Yeah. And that kind of reminds me too of like Muslims having to apologize, for example, about like horrible world events, like what does this affect your average person? And this just reminds me the same, like, it's not every Muslim's responsibility to speak on every single Muslim topic, just like as any other religion. But again, of course, it's always helpful when needed, especially if there's people around you who don't understand and you are giving them more insight. And I also think too, another, I would say downside, with the rise of modest fashion and TikTok and all of this is misinformation and kind of the spread of different perspectives and opinions. I see a lot of debates on TikTok, a lot of debates on what's modest, what's not modest, and everyone giving their own explanation as if it's facts. And I just want everyone to always know to always look to real sources when wanting your information, whether it be religious scholars or accredited speakers, not always to get your information from social media, because it can sometimes be inaccurate and it can be someone's opinion solely and not representative of everybody else.
Absolutely, because also you're going to find Muslims who don't fast, who don't pray, who don't wear a hijab, who do not practice Islam in this particular way. But Islam does not really change. It is one religion, and it is supposed to be what it is. People choose to follow or not follow. Yeah. It's the same way with Christianity, Judaism, or any other religion. Yeah. So you're going to find a lot of different kinds of people in the same religion.
For sure. So many celebrities, by name, we know are Muslim. And just to give like a quick explanation, the minimum to be Muslim is to believe in one God and that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the messenger. After that, everything else is next. But to the basic to be a Muslim is to just say that declaration of faith, which anyone can do. So when they see these articles like, 10 celebrities you didn't know are Muslim, you can't take your interpretation of Islam from someone who may not practice 100%. Compared to someone else. And of course, we're not saying the religion discriminates against anyone, anyone who always welcome to the religion, but I just think it's important to get facts and information from credible sources.
This makes me come back to this one thing. If you look at all humans as humans and stop looking at or stop like brooding on who is what is what, you will treat everybody equally. If you have that in you, like nothing that person is wearing whatever, like they're wearing a hijab, they're wearing a kippah, they're wearing a turban, the AIC turban, whatever they're doing, like we as humans, we're just supposed to not judge other humans, even though that we do. Like, if we all just look at the world with this eye that everybody's equal. I'm not better, nobody else is better, and everybody's equal. And this is what Islam teaches us, to look at everybody as in, equal.
Yeah, because we don't know what's in someone's heart. And there's a lot of sayings as well about someone who would run to the mosque to pray, but have different intentions in their heart so that everyone can see that they pray. So there's definitely a lot that goes there, and just treating everyone with the same amount of dignity and respect, because of course you also don't know what someone's going through as well, and what kind of upbringing they had that made them this way. And you can't always compare your circumstances to someone else's circumstances. And so I definitely feel, again, as Muslims, we're always reminded too of just being more mindful of others. So before we come to an end, what does Ramadan mean to you and your family, since we are now in Ramadan and fasting and
Yes.
I think we're like midway through Ramadan
Midway.
exactly. Oh
It's
my
14.
God.
Yes.
Crazy. 2 weeks in already. Oh my God.
Yes, it's almost, yeah, halfway through. We
I
made
can't
it.
even believe that.
So my family, like Ramadan is a very exciting time of the year because of what it means, in terms of like cleansing you of all your sins and, giving you that opportunity to do more and more good. So, so what we do is like we have little journals for the kids, and we have, they check off their prayers, they check off how much, of the recitations or all the
So
good
cute.
deeds that they have done, and then they make their intention. Like there's a big like list that they have to create an intention list. So they're always very excited about like creating their lists and checking
Yeah.
through those boxes. And yeah, alhamdulillah, it's like a very peaceful time of the year. It feels good. It feels like you're cleansing your entire body, mind, and soul. It feels good.
I feel like it's even more fun to have kids in Ramadan around you. Like when I go visit my family and my brother, he's 10, we're like trying to, just implement different things to make him feel festive. And so
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, let's watch this video together. Let's go make paper lanterns together.
Yeah.
Things I wouldn't do as an adult on my own. And even like with Eid, Eid is the holiday that we celebrate at the end of Ramadan, which will probably be in 2 weeks. Again, trying to make it festive, not only for yourself, but for the kids too.
Yes.
I think that's always fun to plan for.
We decorate the entire house, like is decked with Ramadan stuff, and
That's
it's
so cute.
just super fun and festive as well.
Wow, that's so nice. Yeah, I also have a really big family. Whenever we go visit home, it's always so much fun. We have like over 70 family members, which is crazy amount to have in one city. They all came after the Syrian civil war broke out, actually, or the Syrian Revolution, and that's when we all got to celebrate. So they brought a lot of their, I would say, like Syrian traditions from home directly with us. So like sometimes we'll sing like I don't know, folkloric traditional songs like nasheeds, but they'll be like Syrian types of nasheeds. We'll do like we'll decorate the house, we'll have potlucks with the family for iftar sometimes, and then not to mention the nightly prayers at the mosque that my mom and sister actually coordinate a lot of the details for that, like the babysitting to make sure that both parents can pray. So it's always a exciting time of the year where we're all just feeling a bit more, I don't know how to explain it.
Spiritual and happy. I feel like there's just so much joy during Ramadan and connecting with the family and with God. I feel like it's a very grounding time of the year for me.
And did you also notice that it's like kind of interesting that every day, at 7:45 or something, you have an event. It's iftar time. So like everyone knows at this time they need to be in the kitchen beforehand, especially like in my family where we're all kind of older. If I visit home, all my sisters have cars, we all drive. Everyone's not always home at the same time. But in Ramadan, everyone is home at 7:45 on the dinner table.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a guaranteed daily event that you
daily, like that's when your family like comes together. Otherwise, a lot of times like people, like kids have their own things going on and like eating dinner at their own time, like
with their practices or something. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was so fun chatting with you, and I hope the viewers learned something new today, and if not, you can always come to either me or Dr. Hina with questions. And again, if you want to find any of us on social media, my handle is @Albarcha on Instagram, and your handle
is Story of Style.
Yes. And so I just want to thank you, Dr. Cheema, for joining us in the This Is Ramadan and sharing your knowledge with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Creators with Influence is produced by the American Influencer Council, the sole 501c6 not-for-profit trade association in the U.S. created by and for career creators.